Hello and welcome to Get the Gist podcast. I'm your host, Ruban Phukan, co founder and CEO of GoodGist. In this podcast, we speak with leaders from different industries to understand the current business challenges, the processes that are followed. We explore how they are leveraging emerging technologies to solve some of these challenges. So, my guest today is Mone Swann, a visionary leader with over 25 years of experience in insurance industry, specializing in life, health, annuities, and long-term care. As the founder and CEO of Bivex.io, she is transforming the future of insurance with accessible, innovative, and reliable solutions for millennials online. So, welcome to the show, Mone.
Thank you, Ruben. What an honor. I thought there was going to be a panel, but it's just you and me. But we're
Yeah,
going to get some things done. We're going to get some things done today. So thank you again.
absolutely.
It's an honor and a pleasure.
Looking forward to and great to have you here. So, Mone, to start with, can you share a bit more about yourself and what Bivex is doing?
Okay, well, you've already said I'm old. Thank you so much, Ruben. Yes, it's been a little over 25 years I've been in the business, but I will tell you it is the most inspirational if you get into the business for the right reasons, right? So, I started a legacy company over 20 some years ago. I started actually in the PNC business, and I could see the way things were going. You know, as a visionary, you got to think further than 2 months. You got to think 3 years, 10 years, 15 years, 30 years. And so that was my first agency. And then I went into corporate because I needed to understand the mindset. It's very different than an entrepreneur. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very
Absolutely.
different. We are on
Very
the
different
cutting
world.
edge. We've got to know where you're going, how much it's going to take to get there, and can we sustain it? So Bivix Wealth and Insurance Solutions is still the legacy company. But Bivix IO was created for millennials to be the bridge, as well as being the company platform that gives seniors an ability to stay in touch with what's going on. Because as we briefly spoke about off camera, is that AI is making some really big changes. So we love to throw these catchphrases out, disruptor and all that kind of stuff, right? But I think to understand, it's really convenience driven. That's really why we're using AI, right? Because not everybody gets the same background, the same experience. There are people that come in for all different kind of reasons. I've spoken with agents that want to heal the world, to agents that says I want to make as much money as I possibly can. And so it's just understanding when you're talking about a legacy company and when you're talking about an IO, a Bivix IO, it is a platform, it is a subscription. It gives you all these opportunities to be able to go in and not only do it on your own time, but learn about what you're actually doing. Whereas my generation, which is more the baby boomers, could you do that for me? Well, could you do that for me? Well, could you do that for me? Well, will you get back to me? Well, how's your customer service? Now it's being all taken out of that and it's going into you want to do it, you do it yourself. You want to do it at 2 o'clock in the morning, you do it yourself. And so I think there are some really positive things about what's going on. I think there's a lot of challenges that lie ahead because people don't know what they're doing and they go in there and they try to just check off the boxes, not understanding everything that comes along with those boxes. So, yeah, to kind of circle back, 25 years in the PNC life health annuities, financial advisement, 401ks, cut my teeth on PNC, and then I was over at Citi for a little bit as an FA. But I think what I've learned the most is that being able to communicate, no matter what the demographic is, it's communicating and letting them know that we are moving in a way that really gives everybody a chance to really get involved.
Thanks for sharing that background. It's very impressive what you're doing. So, in fact, I have a follow-on question on that, right? So, in Bivex, you have mentioned that you cater to millennials as well as to seniors, right? So
Correct.
that's quite a wide range of audience, right? The user experience that is expected is very different for the two audience, right? So, how are
Yes.
you bridging the gap from a technology perspective to cater to the wide spectrum of audience and making sure that they are able to navigate, because like you have said, millennials have a very different expectation from what they want to see versus the seniors.
Well, I think it all starts with information and being able to educate, because we found over the years that those who are not able to educate, those societies fall rather quickly. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
They just disappear and you don't know what happened to them, if they're coming back. But I think for seniors to be able to explain to them what technology is, it's not the devil, it's not evil. It's about something that can be used in a negative way, just like fire or anything else. I remember when the internet came out. I don't know, Ruben, how old you are, but I remember when the internet came out, everybody says we were going to go to hell in a handbag. And you're like, wait a minute, let's see the whole spectrum of what it actually is able to show us. And so for me, the educational aspect comes through Secure 65 Health, which is our YouTube channel that really incorporates everything that's happening, not just in, Medicare or health insurance. It's a holistic view for seniors to get kind of a bird's eye view as to what's happening, why it's happening, and how they can jump on that train before it leaves the tracks. Because a lot of times seniors get left behind. And on the other side of that coin, so do some of the youngsters that are saying, what's happening to our economy? What are you guys leaving us? Oh my God, it's going to be a disaster. So bringing them together was my idea of what a holistic agency looks like. I'm not just senior driven, I'm not just millennial driven, but I want to be the bridge so that both people can communicate effectively and create the type of lifestyle that they really want.
That's a great mission. That's a great mission. Now, on that note, I recently saw your podcast on a very big issue that we are facing now, which is the significant backlog of the Social Security benefits processing, right? And you have mentioned that almost like over 2 million backlog in the disability benefits processing, which is massive, right?
In the
So
system.
yeah. So, what exactly is causing this, and how do people who rely on the benefits prepare themselves?
Great question. And I think it's a question that should be asked before you start chopping down your employment force. But so there's so many ways that we could look at that from a perspective of what is more important to us right now. So the people that are actually doing the work for the seniors and or the seniors, and is there a goal where both can be satisfied? So before, in my opinion, my humble opinion, before you start chopping heads off, go back and see what's working and what's not. But to do massive layoffs where people don't even know if they're going to be there or not, it creates a toxic environment. So what happens? That toxicity is passed down and passed down and passed down. So now, not only are the employees not happy to go to work because they don't know if they're going to have a job, they don't know if they're going to be given what they need. But now, when they pick up the phone, they're not going to be the happiest people on earth. They don't have to be in Disneyland to be happy, right? They are not going to be happy. They're going to give you a little bit of what you need. And unfortunately, a lot of seniors are going to be left in the dark because if people aren't there to answer the phones, if they don't care any longer, the customer service is going to diminish. And when we talk to seniors, that's one of the most important things that they're looking into is being able to get good customer service, especially when they're not technology driven. So they're hoping I can get on the phone and talk to somebody who will resolve my issues in an expeditious way. And that's going to be challenging moving forward. So finding a way that you can bring both parties together. They're both stakeholders besides the government. The government is there to actually give them the answers, show them the way, give them the solutions. We have to be more solution driven than just economic driven.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you see technology playing a role in this in the future in any way, right? So, it's not about saying that you cannot replace people with technology. That's, of course, not going to work, right? And in contexts like this, where human touch is just so important, right? But
Absolutely.
yeah, so is there a way that technology can help accelerate that so that all those backlogs can get resolved faster?
Sure. Well, first of all, you've got to have a workforce that's been trained. AI, to a certain degree, is still somewhat new in the most archaic industry in the world, which is insurance. Government does not move that fast. So now, if you try to just put a platform in that's AI driven and you haven't taught some of the people who have been there for years, it takes time to do it properly. Number one. Number two, seniors have to be taught as well how to use it. So there were a lot of challenges, even through Medicare, where seniors did not know how to sign the application. And so you're on the phone. Well, do you have a granddaughter? Well, do you have a grandson? Well, do you have a neighbor? Well, do you know how to text? Well, do you have a computer? There are seniors that say, I don't want to do technology. Well, I can understand it could be a little challenging, but you need to become part of our community because moving forward, that is a necessity. It is not something that you can just do as a luxury. It's a necessity now. So, how are you going to do that? Well, who's out there doing it? Well, Secure 65 Health Plans is. We're out there showing you how to do it, not only to protect yourself, but to also protect yourself against fraud. And so once you get the Social Security employees in place, not only to use it, but to explain to other seniors how to use it, now we're talking about creating synergy that will be good long term and sustainable. But I don't think we've put all those pieces together at this time.
And those are really, really valid points because the timing is now, right? So because once this start falling apart, it's very hard to put it together
Well, we've been
given
putting
how
band aids.
massive it is.
Yeah, we've been putting band-aids on our health industry for years. And so I think what we've been seeing is it's imploding on itself. Now, not economically, because we've had great years, right? The
Yeah,
carriers have made lots of money, but
yeah,
imploding on the service that they're providing to their consumers. And that's it's very sad to see that happening.
yeah, absolutely. So, coming to the carriers, right? So, given that you partner with a lot of the carriers at Bivex, right? So, can you give us a walkthrough of what is the process of how do you match a client's requirement for insurance with the right carrier, given that there are just so many options today?
Well, our because we have a boutique agency, we're a little bit different as to how we craft those steps moving forward. There are some agencies that say, you know what, come join us. We've got 50 companies. Wow, you'll be able to fit someone somewhere. Well, let's take a look at that. Agents are in a business, they're not in a nonprofit, right?
Yeah,
So you give them the best companies for specific scenarios. So there's some that are super good for lupus, some that are great for muscular dystrophy. There are some that are perfect for millennials, perfect for those who are about to retire. You have to do what we call as a needs assessment. Now, everyone does that, but from the administrative level down, we pick the carriers that are going to be the best for customer service, the ones that are easy to get a hold of, the ones that underwriting understand what their goals are, because sometimes underwriters don't. You've got to say, exactly, what are we doing here? We're trying to write business, so let's come to an agreement. And then those who really are, as they say, consumer centric. They really want to do that. Not all of them do it. Most of them say it. But for me, it's important that I have a really good relationship with the underwriters and I make sure my agents do. Instead of just sending something there, listen, can you tell me, can we write this business with you? Because there's other carriers, but we're looking for the best outcomes. And we're wanting to make sure that it is a pleasant experience. Why? Because they need it. Two, because they may have to make some changes and they want to stay with the same carrier. Three, that we can get a hold of you and we're not online for hours just like the consumer. So when it goes into that, of course, we look at, their financials, all that's, given. We want to make sure that you still are able to take care of clients. But I think out above and beyond is how do you take care of your employees, how do you take care of your agents, and how do you take care of the consumers? And if they get a check off in each one of those boxes, then we're good to go. But I think we've got to stop looking at it from a perspective of just how much business we can write across the board. Find the very best companies that deal with those specific issues that you are dealing with and go there. And you don't need to have 50 companies to do well. You just need to know that it's the top five.
And I mean, that matching process, right? And you've rightly said it's so important because from the end consumer perspective, right, what they're looking for is that best match, right? Or where the insurance that can support their needs. So now, given that there are just so many combinations, right? So is that process manual, or do you think that there is a level of automation, there is a level of technology that can be applied here, which can help accelerate that matching process or even take into account the data about the carriers and about all the aspects that you have mentioned? Is it possible for a technology system to do that, or is it like has to be done manually?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at financial advisors, a lot is automated. So what's happening is consumers are saying, well, do I go to have the computer tell me what I should buy, or should I go talk to you? Well, who has commitments? You do. The computer is just for the client, right? And so when you talk about it from a perspective of finances, then the FA will say, hey, listen, we're going to do the best for you. Well, but they also have obligations to their brokerage, right? So we know that there are other things that are taken into consideration. So I think it was about 20 years ago when the computerization of stocks and everything really came into existence. And people really kind of flipped their nose up at it. It's like, ah, why would you do that when you could have an FA? And it's like, well, 1% to 4%. Guess what? Even if you lose or win, it doesn't matter. They're still getting paid. Computer is different. So in our industry, it's very, very similar in that you could use AI to start the conversation, to gather the information. But because I think it's also critical to understand the ability to keep it confidential and to add love and care and understanding in it, especially when you're a senior, to be able to identify those things that may have a direct influence on them, like whether they're going into dementia. Computer may not pick that up, whereas I can have a conversation with someone and I can say, what did you say your address was again? Oh, I forgot. Let's talk about this just a little bit more. Whereas a computer will say, well, we're going to go with the first address. That's what she gave us. Right. So you can use them at different times of the conversation, but you need to know when to do that. And you're going to need a human being behind there to say, stop the conversation. Somebody else needs to take over here. So I think AI is increasing at a very rapid pace. I think it's good that we can do it, but I don't think that the humans that programmed them should be the last word by any means.
Absolutely. So, coming to one of the most important topic in the whole insurance industry, which is underwriting, right?
Yes,
A lot of people have heard about the term. They think that they know what goes in the whole underwriting process, but
yes.
most people don't, right? So, if you can talk about the complexity of underwriting, what goes behind that, and do underwriters leverage technology like AI in their process?
Absolutely. So different industries do it differently. So when we talk about health or life, there's some life agencies that use AI to determine a credit score, and they use that to tell you if you're preferred or standard or whatever, which I really feel I'm kind of adverse to that because what does that credit score mean towards somebody's health? Now there are explanations that if you have bad credit, you probably have bad health. I don't know, and I'm not going to open up that box of worms to get into it. But life insurance companies will pull your credit to decide, even if you're in excellent health, if you should get that rating. Which I still think it's a little suspect. I think we need to do a deeper dive in that because when you look at it, that also brings into the conversation the culture. Comes into your economics, and all that kind of thing. So I think when it comes to the life insurance, the underwriting is used mostly it will be people that will get your MIB, right? And they'll decide based on that. And then if that's not good enough, they will call your doctor and say, I need a physician statement and I need you to send me all the records, right? So that just makes the process much longer. Could AI go through that and then come up with a determination? I think we haven't gotten to that point yet. because sometimes when you look at doctor's notes, I don't know if you've ever looked at doctor's notes, but I have a brother that's a doctor, and I will tell you, when you look at their handwriting, I'm not sure you're going to get the full picture of what's going on. Or another example is if, let's say, her name is Mary. Mary goes to the doctor, and Mary's just had a bad day. So Mary tells the doctor, you know what? I just don't think I'm remembering things like I used to. And the doctor writes it down. Now, it's not really something that's going on yet. This is something that's just passing over her mind. But the problem is once it's in writing, then the underwriters say, "Oh, well, Mary came in on 5/11 and she said that maybe her memory's not good." And that also gets put into the calculations as to where they need to go. Now, that's an example for just life insurance. But we're seeing that in the Medicare system, it has really gotten out of control where AI will say whether somebody needs to stay in a home for additional physical therapy or not, or if they can go longer when they need a hip replacement. Where the doctor will say, I talked to her, I see her, I understand the pain. AI doesn't see you. They just see, or it just sees what is written down about how you are navigating the situation, and they feel like it's not that, it feels like it's not that bad. So AI still needs to be corrected a lot. Now, are we going to a place where it may all be underwriting AI? Very possibly within the next, I'm going to say next 3 years. I think it's going to change dramatically based on AI being able to heal, AI being able to get rid of diseases. Things will take on a very, very different look, which is going to actually throw the insurance industry into a tailspin because they use very old underwriting methods to determine where you should fall in the preferred standard, and they're called tabled ones. So the tabled ones is you're not even on the charts. We got to create something else due to either your weight or your height and weight differentiation, your age, your specific chronic diseases that you're dealing with. So most people don't know that. And there are times when you talk about, well, how much of a role does underwriting play? If you're in great shape, Ruben, and you decided to go out and get a latte triple shot before you go and, take your exam, you're going to be off the charts. And guess what? They don't take that back. So a lot of times agents don't tell the client, okay, before you go, don't exercise, don't drink any caffeine, get a good night's sleep, because it's like you are taking a test for something that will never be erased. So the underwriting plays a huge part as to the costs and what is offered to a client at any age. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important that everybody should understand what goes behind underwriting, because I mean, all that they see is what comes out of it, which is the premium. And then they say, why? Why is the premium so different, right, than my friends? So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
There are a lot of people that expect it to be just like their friend. Well, Susie got 100,000 and she's only paying $54. I'm getting 100,000 and it's 176. Well, you're 20 years older. You have had cancer 10 years ago, blah, 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 blah. And by the time you break it down, it becomes very harsh. So you don't want to go into that like, well, you're just in bad health. Okay. So she's not, but you want him or her to understand that when they look at it, they are putting in morbidity, mortality, all of those things going on. If you smoke, if you don't smoke. So don't make a decision on what you should purchase based on someone else. Make sure you speak to an insurance professional, not just any professional, one that says, you know what, let's do a deep dive. You want to have a conversation? You might want to get some coffee so we can have a real conversation and I can give you the best solutions available for your specific situation.
So now let's talk about the other end of the insurance cycle, which is the claims processing, and which is often the most challenging part from the end consumer's perspective, right? So, how do you go about streamlining the processes for your clients, right? And at the same time, of course, you need to maintain the compliance and industry regulations, right? So, how does that work?
Challenging. Let's just say it's challenging. Most of the compliance is in place, and that hasn't really changed a lot when it comes to life insurance. Medicare is still doing it the same way, health insurance is still doing it the same way. I think for us, we're still very much a legacy company in that respect, in that it comes with communication, explanations, making sure that their PII and all that is always protected, telling them that when it comes to it, if you want to talk to us through email, you can. If you want to do text, you can. If you want to do phone numbers, making sure people are signing in to these things, not just throwing them in there. It's understandable for us. Most of our business comes from referrals. So we will have partners that we deal with who will say, "Hey, we want you to reach out to this group of people because they are part of our group and give them the help that they're not getting if they go directly with a carrier." And so for us, the compliance is to make sure all of their personal identity information, for those who may not know what I was talking about when I said PII, so that they know that is protected. And then the compliance part of it just comes along with it. Every agent should know the compliance, should be taking care of their client, should not have that information around their home. It should be in a computer locked away with keys on it and all that kind of stuff. But I think understanding it's always going to be about your personal relationship with that person. How big you want to grow is up to you, but you got to do it within being compliant. And then making sure that as you move forward, you're able to continue to offer the same benefits and the same service. And that's the challenge as you continue to grow, that you stay compliant as you're doing it. And sometimes that's a challenge.
Yeah. So, talking about the communication part, right? So, I think insurance is one of the industry which is where the communication is so important, and I would assume that a large part of the communication happens through email. So that brings in the question of what I mean, most of the industries today are talking about is the messy inbox problem, right? That you get so many different emails, and you have to like triage the email, you have to validate, you have to make sure that you're sending back the right information to the right person, and that too in time. So how big is the problem for you?
That's a tough question. Some days very tough, other days not as much. When it comes to it, again, I think we've got several platforms that we use. We don't have everybody on one platform because it would just be a madhouse. Making sure that each CSR has their, scope on who they have, what they're doing, they're getting back to them. I would say, depending on your workforce, is how challenging it can be. Now, we're a boutique agency, even though we're across the country. The boutique means that we keep it at a personal level. We're not somebody that just hands it off to an AI or to the carrier to handle. Whenever something comes on, each person has their dedicated customer service rep, that, or we call them success reps, that make sure the communication goes forward. But I think sometimes it's challenging because the inbox gets so far out there that people get lost in the cracks. And so the only way we're able to make sure that that doesn't happen is that we have things set up to talk with every client. Every client gets a call once a month, which is a challenge, but we'll leave a message. Some will say, "Don't email me, text me." I love it when you say text me, right? So we've got platforms, AI platforms, that will even just text and say, "Hey, we're just calling to say see how you're doing. What's going on? Is there any change? Do we need to do anything?" Sometimes, Ruben, I'll say this with a sad heart. Sometimes the AI are nicer than some of the agents I've seen. They'll ask about their birthday. They'll, wish them happy birthday, do great things. Where some agents are so overwhelmed that it becomes business and not health business, not a social business, not a business showing concern. And so I think for us, what's happened is we've kind of figured out who we need to talk to in person, who an AI person is fine, who we do text messages with, who we do telephone calls, and who we do emails. And then keeping all that becomes a challenge too, right? Because those databases have to be protected.
No, that's a great way to put it, is that it's not about using AI or people. It's more, I would say, that the whole collaboration when AI and humans work together to
Yes.
make the process more efficient. So that's a great point. So looking ahead, what are some of your goals that you have for your company in 2025?
Well, the Bivix IO is my baby. I want to make sure that we can explain to millennials what's going on. Not only now, but I want you to look 20 years out. I want you to look 30 years out. A lot of them are coming under pressure because they're taking care of their parents, right? So when you look at that, have you been trained? It's kind of like we go to school, but nobody teaches us how to communicate with each other. And so that has really come back to get us because we can do things very quickly, but are we doing it properly? Do we really understand what the goal is? So for all of my agents, it's like, well, what's the goal in the conversation? When we're talking to millennials or we're talking to baby boomers, what is the goal for the conversation? If you get sidetracked because somebody said something inappropriately, you have missed the goal. Get back on topic and complete it. So we have a subscription model. So depending on where you are, you might say, hey, I want the first level. The first level will be just getting insurance, whether it's life, health, vision, dental. We don't have the Medicare on the plan yet, but cancer, any of the supplementals, that's one tier. Tier number two, you might say, well, I also want to talk about retirement strategies. How does that work? What does that look like? And you might want to have access to an advisor. That's on tier number two. Tier number three is all of that, but then there's community interaction. Or if you are looking for a job, or if you just want to know more about health insurance, life insurance, you can go to that and you'll have everything all the agents have, making it so that it's affordable. They can give back to their charity if they want. People are now struggling with what is right and what is wrong, which we didn't really have that challenge before. It was pretty black and white, right? But now we've got all this gray area. And it's like what you need to do is follow your heart because your heart never puts you in the wrong direction. Follow your heart. What is it you really want to accomplish? Because on Bivix IO, you have the ability to pretty much do whatever you want. If you want an advisor, you have an advisor. If you don't want an advisor, you don't have one. If you want to be more community driven, there are a lot of baby boomers who are really thinking of charities right now because they're thinking, I don't know what's going on with the world, but I think I need to put my money over here. When I'm gone, you guys might need a little help, so I'm going to put it there. So we really want it to be holistic from the point of no matter what age you are, there is an option there for you to choose what is going to be best suited for the way you do business. And it's, platforms 24/7 whenever you want to do it. And I think it gives them the opportunity, if they're on level two, they'll say, hey, I want to speak to somebody right now. Well, we have agents in every part of the country. So you don't have to say, oh, I'll probably get an AI person. Well, they'll probably get somebody there that's awake. I don't know. It depends if you're in there. If you're at midnight, you might have to, schedule an appointment, which is fine too. But I think understanding that the goal for me for AI is convenience. That's it, not replacement, convenience.
Exactly. Fantastic. So that was a really, really insightful session, Mone. Really appreciate you coming over and sharing your insights. And good luck for Bivex. It's a great platform, and thanks for sharing about it. And I'm pretty sure that everyone would benefit to go and check bivex.io. So once again, thank you so much, Mone.
Thank you so much. And don't forget to tell your viewers Secure 65 health plans on YouTube is where they need to go. And Ruben, I want to tell you, we are giving away $10,000 senior advocates. So anybody who's out there who really loves what they're doing, you need to
Mhm.
check us out in case you don't need any extra money.
Absolutely.
You
Thanks
have been
for
a
sharing
pleasure.
that. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.